I swear, I've seen some disrespect in my life, but nothing ever came close to what my wife pulled at our anniversary dinner. 10 years. 10 damn years of my life. And she walked in like she was the queen of some twisted carnival, parading her dirty secrets right into my face like it was some kind of joke. Let me take you there. We were at Vincent's, the upscale Italian place downtown. Candlelight. White tablecloths. I'd reserved the private balcony, paid a fortune, because I still believed in us. Still believed she was the woman I'd married. And then the door opened. She walked in wearing a crimson dress that looked like it belonged in someone else's life. Her hair done up, red lipstick like war paint. And on either side of her, Kyle, her ex-husband, and Derek, the guy I knew was more than just a friend from college. They strutted in like they were part of some damn bachelor reality show, all smirks and swagger. Derek even winked at me. Winked. I felt my jaw tighten, felt the heat crawl up the back of my neck. What the hell is this? I asked, barely keeping my voice level. She smiled like I was the stupid one for asking. It's just a dinner, she said, sliding into the seat across from me, like she hadn't just sucker punched my soul. Kyle's my first love, and Derek's my best friend. We needed to catch up, like we were all on the same twisted wavelength. Like this wasn't our anniversary dinner. Like she hadn't just invited ghosts of her past to haunt the most intimate moment of our marriage. Her eyes didn't even flinch. You're overreacting, she said, sipping her wine like she was some kind of innocent. You always take things so personally. Kyle chuckled. Derek laughed louder. I looked around the table, expecting someone, anyone, to call out how messed up this was. But then her friends, Melissa and Tina, both nodded like she was some hero for being honest and living her truth. I felt something break inside me right there. I stood up, heart pounding, my knuckles white around my phone. She looked up with that same smug grin. What? You're leaving already? Come on, don't be dramatic. This night isn't just about you. That's when I knew something she didn't. I pulled out my phone, smiled calmly, and said, You're right. It's not just about me anymore. She rolled her eyes. God, you're so sensitive. Melissa, I interrupted, turning to her friend, you might want to call an Uber. I canceled the credit card tied to the dinner tab about 20 minutes ago. This restaurant doesn't accept girl power as payment. And I kept going. I also canceled the utilities, the housekeeper, the car insurance, everything under my name, including the lease. That place you've been living in like it's your personal kingdom? It'll be locked by morning. The smiles vanished. Wait, she said, setting down her glass. What are you talking about? I booked a one-way flight to Colorado. 48 minutes ago. I already spoke to a lawyer. They turned pale. All of them. Melissa dropped her fork. Tina's mouth hung open. Derek's smug look melted off his face. And Kyle? Well, Kyle finally shut the hell up. I looked straight into her eyes and said, This is your catch-up? Well, congratulations. You're caught. I didn't yell. Didn't throw a fit. I just grabbed my coat, my keys, and walked out. As I stepped into the cold night, I swear I could feel the ghost of the man I was disappearing behind me. That was the beginning. Not the beginning of the end, but the beginning of me finding out just how deep her betrayal really went. And trust me, it goes deeper. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in a motel room across town, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, wondering how I let it all rot for so long without noticing the smell. But the truth? The truth was, I had noticed. The signs were there. They'd been scratching at the back of my mind for months. I just didn't want to believe them. Her late nights with the girls that always ended in silence. The cold shoulder in bed. The way she flinched when I reached for her, as if my touch had become an obligation. And the phone, God, that damn phone. She guarded it like it held nuclear codes. Always face down. Always on silent. The pieces began snapping together like some cruel puzzle. I remembered a Sunday morning 2 weeks ago. I was half asleep on the couch, and her phone buzzed across the room. I glanced at it out of instinct. Just a name, D, with a red heart emoji. That was it. She snatched it up like a hawk diving on prey and snapped. It's just Derek. He's going through a breakup. Her voice was too high, too defensive. I knew better, but I smiled, nodded, and said, Okay, because that's what I did. I trusted her. The next morning after the dinner, I went back to the house. Not for her. Not for reconciliation. I wanted answers. I needed to see it all for myself. I walked in and everything felt off. Like the place was mocking me. Her perfume still lingered in the air, and her heels, Those same red ones she wore last night. Sat by the front door like nothing happened. I didn't even call out her name. I went straight for her laptop. She'd always been sloppy with tech. Never thought I'd look. I guessed her password on the second try. Our wedding date. And there it was. Photos. Messages. Emails. Not just with Derek. With Kyle too. With others. One thread labeled us, love, made my stomach twist. They talked about me like I was a clueless roommate. She laughed at how needy I was. Said I was soft. Called me her security blanket. Derek replied, "Can't believe he still thinks you love him, LOL." Then came the videos. I forced myself to watch one. I didn't recognize the hotel room, but I recognized her voice. Her laugh. Her body language. It was intimate in a way she hadn't been with me in years. And the way she moved, like she belonged to him. Not me. Never me. I slammed the laptop shut and sat on the floor, shaking. That was when the rage came. Not the kind that explodes. The quiet kind. The kind that settles deep in your gut and tells you, you've been played. I took photos, screen recordings, sent them all to my lawyer. Then I packed a single bag. Passport, IDs, a burner phone. I took the safe deposit box key from my drawer. She never knew about that box, my emergency fund, the one I kept just in case. Just in case turned out to be now. Before I left, I took one last walk through the house. The dining room table still had the wine stains from the party she threw last month, where she toasted to forever in front of our friends. I remembered how she looked at me then, with that polished fake smile. That actress smile. She was good. Damn good. But now I was done playing the idiot. I left the keys on the counter. Took my wedding ring off. Dropped it into her favorite mug. The one that said Boss Babe. When I stepped outside, I didn't feel free. I felt hollow. Like I'd been gutted. But I also felt awake. I got into the rental car. Drove until my phone lost signal. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I let myself cry. Not for her. Not even for what we used to be. I cried for the man who thought loyalty still meant something. For the fool who thought love couldn't be faked. And in that broken place, something new started to grow. It had been 5 days since I vanished from her world. 5 days without a single call, text, or message from her. That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't looking. She wasn't sorry. She was relieved. So I stopped checking. I rented a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Forest all around me. Spotty cell signal, no distractions. Just me, my thoughts, and a pile of documents my lawyer sent over. Divorce papers, asset reports, financial breakdowns. All of it laid bare what I already suspected. She'd been preparing to leave me, just not yet. She was bleeding me dry first. Credit card statements showed purchases I never authorized. Jewelry, hotel rooms, even flights. One flight, booked for 2, to Aruba. Guess who was flying with her? Derek. She didn't even try to hide it. That's what got me. The boldness. The disrespect. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. She wasn't cheating out of loneliness or confusion. She enjoyed it. She thrived on watching me stay loyal while she treated me like a doormat. But I wasn't lying in the mud anymore. I was standing up. On the 6th day, she finally reached out. A short text. "Where are you? We need to talk." That was it. No apology. No panic. No remorse. I didn't respond. Instead, I called her best friend Melissa. She didn't answer, but I left a voice message that said, clearly and calmly, "Tell Savannah she's free now. Completely. And I hope Derek has a good job, because her lifestyle just got very expensive." An hour later, I got a call from her. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Hi," she said, like nothing happened. I stayed silent. "Look, I know you're mad," she continued. "But can we stop acting like this is some big betrayal? You knew things were off. You weren't exciting anymore. I needed more." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "More," I said slowly. "You brought 2 men to our anniversary dinner like it was a damn sitcom." She scoffed. "It wasn't a crime. You're being overly dramatic. Kyle's still important to me. Derek understands me in ways you never did." What was I supposed to do? Pretend I was happy being married to someone who talks about taxes and home repairs? That stung. Not because it was true, but because it was so cheap. "You lied. For months," I said. "You didn't just cheat. You planned it. You enjoyed it. Don't act like I failed you." She was quiet. Then, with the fakest sweetness I've ever heard, she said, "You're really going to throw it all away because of a couple of mistakes?" I almost laughed. You didn't make mistakes, Savannah, I said. You made choices. You chose them over me. You chose to humiliate me. And now I'm choosing to walk away. Then she flipped, right on cue. Oh, please, don't act like some wounded saint, she spat. You think you're some perfect husband? You were boring, Liam. Predictable. I needed fire. Passion. You gave me routines. And you gave me lies, I said. So congratulations. You get to keep your fire. Just don't come looking for water when it burns your life down. Click. I hung up. And this time, I didn't cry. Because I realized something. She hadn't broken me. She had freed me. I looked in the mirror that night. For the first time in years, I didn't see a man trying to please someone who never valued him. I saw someone who had survived the worst kind of betrayal. The one that laughs in your face while it rots your soul behind your back. And I wasn't done yet. The day the divorce papers were officially filed, she showed up at my cabin. Unannounced. No warning. Just the crunch of gravel outside, and then a knock that made my spine stiffen. I opened the door expecting maybe a neighbor or the courier. But there she was, Savannah, standing on the porch like she still belonged anywhere near my peace. She looked different. Not messy, not crying, angry. Dressed to impress, like that would undo everything. Her arms crossed tight, chin high. This is where you ran off to, she said, stepping past me like it was her right. I didn't move. Just watched her walk into the living room and glance around like she was disappointed in the decor. As if she was expecting champagne and velvet curtains, not wood paneling and silence. You shouldn't be here, I said. I wouldn't have to be if you'd answer your damn phone. I didn't think we had anything left to say. She turned sharply. You humiliated me. You ambushed me with that lawyer. My accounts are frozen, Liam. My cards aren't working. I almost smiled. I canceled everything under my name, I said. You don't get to live off me while playing house with Derek. Derek and I. She started, then caught herself. You don't know what we are. I know enough. And I've seen enough. She stepped closer. So that's it. 10 years, and you just ghost me? You walk away without fighting. You already won the fight, Savannah. You just didn't expect me to stop playing. She blinked like she didn't understand. Like she hadn't spent months feeding me half-truths and late-night excuses. Like the years of cold shoulders and turned backs weren't hers to own. I made mistakes, she said suddenly softer. But I didn't mean for it to go like this. I sat down. Let her stand there. No, you meant to drag it out, I said. You meant to have your fun while keeping the roof and the ring. You just didn't think I'd ever leave. I was confused. No, you were selfish. She flinched. That landed. You want honesty? I said, standing now. You didn't just cheat. You mocked me. In front of your friends. In front of them. You looked me in the eye and treated me like a damn spectator in my own life. You lost the right to ask for understanding the minute you laughed at me across that dinner table. Her lip trembled, and for a second, I saw the tiniest crack in her mask. I didn't think you had it in you, she whispered. Yeah, I said. Neither did I. Then she tried one last angle, the old card. She stepped closer, put her hand on my chest, and looked up like she used to when she wanted something. You really think you'll find someone better than me? She asked, voice syrupy now. You think some new girl's gonna put up with your rigid routines and calendar reminders? No one else knows you like I do. I looked her dead in the eyes. Exactly. She stepped back. I opened the door. Don't come back, I said. Next time, you'll find the locks changed. She stood there, breathing hard like she wanted to scream. But she didn't. She just walked out slowly, heels stabbing the gravel with every step. That night, I drank a scotch by the fire and stared out into the trees. My phone buzzed once, email from my lawyer. Confirmation that she'd received the filing. Attached was a reply from her counsel. She wanted the car. Half the savings. A dignified exit. Dignity? That was rich. I closed the email and let the fire burn. Because I wasn't just letting go of her. I was letting go of the illusion that she ever loved me at all. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was wide awake. 2 weeks passed. Not a word from her. I thought maybe she'd finally understood that the game was over, that I was done being her fool. But women like Savannah don't lose gracefully. They circle back, like a storm that pretends to pass, only to double back when you've let your guard down. The silence broke on a Tuesday. My lawyer called. She's contesting the prenup, he said. Wants to argue coercion. Says she signed under pressure. I nearly dropped the phone from laughing. She wore white lace lingerie when she signed that thing. I said. She was drunk on champagne and begging me to marry her before I changed my mind. She's also filing a claim for emotional distress. I went quiet, not because I was shocked, but because I finally understood. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to drag me. Through the mud, through the system, through the kind of legal warfare that kills men slowly and silently. I booked an appointment with my accountant that same day. Moved assets. Shifted titles. Put the cabin in my brother's name. Savannah was going to learn that while she played dirty, I had prepared for dirty. The next day, she showed up again. This time at my brother's office. He called me. She asked if I wanted to grab a drink and talk about what Liam's going through. She smiled like nothing was wrong. Of course she did. She always turned the charm on when she needed something. That night, I received a video. From an unknown number. I opened it. There she was, on a beach. With Derek. Wearing a bikini I bought her. Laughing into the camera as he kissed her neck and held up a cocktail. Her voice came through, loud and clear. To freedom. Then she turned to him. He thinks he's winning. Poor guy doesn't know what's coming. It was dated. The day after she stood on my porch with fake tears and a trembling lip. That was the moment something inside me snapped for good. I booked a return trip home. Not to her, but to my old life. To close it out properly. To burn the last pages and make sure there was nothing left for her to grab. When I got there, the house looked smaller than I remembered. Empty. Cold. Like all the lies had sucked the warmth out of it. I walked room to room, noting what was mine and what wasn't. Art pieces, tech, furniture. Most of it bought with my money, chosen by her taste. I left most of it behind. I took only what mattered, my father's watch, my journals, my toolbox, and a photo, one of the few where I was smiling for real. Back at the front door, I saw it. Her red heels, the same ones from the anniversary dinner, just sitting there, like she thought I'd ever want her to walk through that door again. I took them, placed them in the trash can outside, and lit a match. Watched them melt into nothing. No drama, no rage, just silence and fire. On my way out of town, I drove past her yoga studio. There she was, on the sidewalk, laughing with Melissa, holding a smoothie and talking like her world hadn't just cracked in half. She didn't see me, but I saw her, and I smiled, because now I felt nothing. The kind of nothing that comes after the storm has taken everything, and you finally realize you didn't need any of it to begin with. 3 days later, I was sitting across from Derek. No shouting, no fists, no drama. Just two men in a coffee shop, surrounded by the sound of espresso machines and clinking cups. He looked surprised when I asked him to meet. Thought it might be some ambush. Maybe thought I'd come begging or threatening. But I didn't want revenge. I wanted answers. He looked smaller in person. Not physically. He was fit, had that gym bro frame, but something in his eyes. Weak, restless, guilty. I'm not here to scream, I said, stirring my coffee. You already won, right? He swallowed hard. Look, man, I didn't plan any of this. It just happened. That line again. The universal excuse of cowards and cheaters. I leaned back. You didn't just sleep with my wife. You moved into my life. You were in my bed, used my wine, watched my TV while she fed you lies about me being controlling. He didn't deny it. She said you stopped caring, he muttered. That you were like a shell. And that justified sneaking around behind my back. I didn't know it would go this far. Of course you didn't. Because you thought she was yours. I watched him shift in his seat. Uncomfortable. Sweaty. Like the illusion he'd bought into was cracking. Then I dropped it. She's seeing Kyle again. His eyes snapped up. What? Yeah, I said calmly. Saw them yesterday at the bar near Lexington. Holding hands. You're just the in-between. He blinked, trying to hold his composure. But the truth was a hammer, and it hit him just right. His mouth opened, then closed. And I realized something. He wasn't evil. Just dumb. A stepping stone in Savannah's endless ladder of attention and thrill. I was you once, I said, standing up. And you'll become me. Only difference is, I got out. I left him there, marinating in his choices. On the drive back, I thought about how many times I'd blamed myself. All the nights I wondered what I'd done wrong, where I'd failed her. But seeing Derek like that, disoriented, betrayed, I finally understood it was never about me. Savannah needed an audience. A mirror. A man she could break so she could feel powerful. She didn't want love. She wanted worship. And when you stopped kneeling, she replaced you. Back at the cabin, I poured myself a drink. Opened the divorce email again. Scanned through her demands. She wanted the car. The lake house. Half the savings. Spousal support. I forwarded it all to my lawyer with one line. Tell her she can have the shoes I left in the trash. The next day, I woke up to a voicemail. It was her. Liam, this is insane. We don't have to go nuclear. I know things got messy, but we can fix it. I don't love Derek, okay? He was just a distraction. I miss you. I miss us. Please call me. I played it twice. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to remember how good she was at lying, even when she was desperate. I didn't call back. Instead, I made a list. Everything I'd put on hold because of her, places I wanted to go, things I wanted to build, people I'd pushed away. And at the top of the list, start over. Not rebuild what we had, but erase it. Then, for the first time in years, I slept without waking up at 3 a.m. in a sweat, wondering where she was. Because I didn't care anymore. Weeks went by, and her mask kept slipping. I didn't reply to her messages. There were plenty. First it was apologies. Then came the guilt tripping. Then the threats. You'll regret this. You're throwing away everything. You're not as clean as you think. I just saved them all. Forwarded them to my lawyer. Silence was my sharpest weapon now. But silence didn't sit well with Savannah. She needed control like oxygen. So she turned to chaos. I started getting strange calls, random numbers, voices asking if I wanted to know the truth about her. At first, I ignored them. But then one came in with a name I hadn't heard in years, Evan. A guy I worked with 5 years ago. We weren't close, but I knew him well enough to recognize the voice. Liam, he said, this is gonna sound insane, but I think I slept with your wife. Back in December. I didn't know you were married to her until I saw the photo on your Instagram. I didn't say a word. Just let the words drop into place. He went on, awkwardly. She told me she was single. Said she had just left a controlling guy. We hooked up at the company holiday party. I remembered that night. She'd told me she was with Melissa in Vermont. I'd even helped her pack. Booked her a massage. She came back, refreshed and distant. I thanked Evan for telling me. Hung up. Stared at the wall. She hadn't just cheated. She'd networked through men. Every guy was a means to something. Attention, distraction, leverage. I wasn't special. None of us were. We were names on a list she scribbled on cocktail napkins and forgot to throw away. The final straw came when my lawyer called, unusually quiet. She's trying to claim emotional trauma, he said. Using the beach video you received as evidence of her mental instability, says you weaponized surveillance against her. I laughed so hard I nearly choked. You mean the video she recorded and sent to me? Yes. She's insane. She's desperate. That night, I checked her socials. She'd blocked me, of course, but I used an old work account. What I saw made my blood turn to ice and then boil. She had posted a slideshow. Her and Derek. Her and Kyle. Her on a yacht with people I'd never seen. Captioned, sometimes you have to burn the old to rise again. Hashtag free, hashtag unstoppable, hashtag no regrets. And beneath that, Melissa commenting, queen behavior fire. Derek, only one of you in the world, baby. I stared at that caption for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed that everything I'd done to walk away, everything, was right. She wasn't mourning us. She was building a new identity off the ashes. So I made one final move. The next morning, I walked into my old bank. Sat down with a friend of mine who worked in security and finance. Quietly, methodically, I locked everything down. Removed her name from every dormant account. Wiped access to anything she might try to touch. I closed the charity fund she never cared about, but always bragged to her friends she helped manage. I donated the entire balance to a shelter for abused men. In her name. Tax deductible. Later that day, I received one final text from her. I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I replied, no, Savannah. You ruined mine. I just finally stopped letting you. She didn't respond. I doubt she ever will. But it doesn't matter. Because I've got nothing left to lose. And somehow, that feels like freedom. 3 months after she walked into our anniversary dinner with her ex-husband and her side piece like it was a reunion special, the divorce was finalized. No ceremony. No final battle. Just a signature, a courier, and a moment of silence in my kitchen as I stared at the last legal tie between us. I didn't toast. I didn't cry. I just exhaled, slow and deep, like I'd been holding my breath since the first time she ever lied, and smiled at the same time. There was no message from her after the ruling. No call. No apology. She vanished the way someone does when they know the damage is done and the audience has stopped clapping. I kept expecting some part of me to fall apart after it was over. Regret, maybe. Emptiness. A final wave of sadness to crash over the wreckage. But it never came. Instead, I started waking up earlier. Started eating better. I picked up a guitar I hadn't touched in years. Started building furniture with my bare hands. Took long hikes. Met people who didn't know anything about Savannah or the man I used to be when I was orbiting her universe. It was strange, feeling like myself again. Like I'd crawled out of a skin I didn't know I'd been trapped inside. One night, I sat outside on the porch, whiskey in hand, watching the moonlight flicker off the lake. A voice memo came in from my lawyer, routine update. As he wrapped up, he paused and said, "By the way, good job walking away. Most guys don't." And that stuck with me. Because walking away wasn't easy. It was war. It was watching someone you love become unrecognizable and dangerous, and still choosing to let go instead of begging for the version of them that only existed in your memory. But here's the truth. She wasn't my soulmate. She was my lesson. A brutal, unforgettable lesson in loving the wrong person too deeply and losing myself in the process. I learned that red flags aren't decorations, they're warnings. That just a dinner can be a declaration of war. That if someone mocks your loyalty, your commitment, your decency, they were never worthy of any of it. And to the next guy she's with, I wish him luck. He'll need it. But me? I'm finally free. Free from her games. Free from the gaslighting. Free from loving someone who loved attention more than honesty. If you're reading this and you're in the same place I was, doubting yourself, second-guessing your instincts, wondering if you're crazy for sensing the truth, you're not. You're just with someone who wants to keep you small. Leave. Pack your pride and walk. Limp if you have to. But go. Because what waits on the other side isn't just peace. It's yourself. And trust me, no one is worth losing that for.